To buy food, you go to stores called comisariatos, and they're markets where they sell just foods, just like your normal supermarket in Ecuador. And they have both food that are native in Ecuador and also food that have been exported or imported from the United States. So, for example, I saw things like Jiffy peanut butter there, whereas here it may be $3. Over there, it's about 6. So it's obviously more expensive, the things you get that are American versus the things you can get that are from Ecuador. But I really couldn't find any difference in the stores, rather than they do have like, I guess, for example, milk. They have milk in bags there rather than gallon jugs in the United States. So that was kind of interesting. I would always see that they just have it in the little bag, and then you just use your scissors to cut the bag, and then you just pour your milk and kind of roll the bag back up and then put it in your fridge. So those are kind of unique things that Ecuador also has. They also have a lot of powder milk, another kind of milk box that's called avena, which is an oatmeal drink. Avena is really good. It's kind of, they take oatmeal, they put it with milk, they put sugar, and then they boil it all together, and then they cool it, and then that's kind of your standard milk drink that they have in Ecuador. So that's kind of cool too. And everything else is pretty standard. They use American money in Ecuador. So if anybody were to be traveling there, they could just bring $10, and $10 would be $10 in Ecuador as well. But it goes a lot farther than it would in the United States. If you need to go get a taxi from city to city, maybe it'd be, I don't know, 10 miles. Maybe in the United States it'd cost you $40. In Ecuador it'd cost you maybe like 15. So it's kind of more convenient that way as well.
Some generic travel tips would be, number one, you're going to be rich down there because they use American money. So that's really, really simple. And your dollar is going to go a lot farther. So that's really cool. But you got to know when they're trying to take advantage of you because they know that you're American. So in the more touristy or centralized areas, like for instance, Guayaquil is like the big city. So if you're in like the main city parts, you might have to be a little bit more careful with your money because they're going to think that you can spend a lot more and they're going to take advantage of you a little bit more. For instance, if you're taking a taxi, they're going to, charge you, like $20 or something if they think that they can get away with it when really it should cost you like $3 or something, So you got to be careful, judging if people are going to try to kind of catch you off guard there. Some other travel tips might be just, being careful with the food that you eat. I'm not exactly sure what generic travel tip I would say about what food to eat and what not to eat, because we had certain mission rules, and that, they told us that we couldn't eat things that were hard to clean really, really deep, like, lettuce, strawberries, and all those kind of berry things. We weren't allowed to eat pork. That was another thing. So I would guess, as Americans, in general, those rules would probably still apply. And other things to be aware of. I felt like the people were pretty chill and pretty helpful. So obviously, if you speak Spanish, fluently enough that you can, communicate, as far as like getting around, asking questions, to, get guidance on locations to see or what bus to take, I feel like you could really get a lot of information from the people themselves, even if you didn't know exactly where to go or, hey, what would be a cool restaurant to eat at? I mean, maybe you could just ask the locals right there and they'd give you the, the 411. Other travel tips. You'll probably want a lot of coins as far as money is concerned, because you use coins a lot. I mean, I felt like having a dollar bill was even like a lot of money. I don't think we ever had a $20 bill. You can't use a $20 bill almost because they don't have enough change. Even if you use like a taxi who's using money all day, they just wouldn't have that kind of cash on hand. People just don't have a lot of money. So if you want to buy something for, let's say, even $10 and you have a 20, you think in America, oh, that's totally fine. They'll be able to give me $10 back. Not necessarily in Ecuador. So you want to have as many low monetary, how would you say that? You want to have as many low number dollar bills or as many coins as possible. As far as like weather and stuff goes, I mean, it's just gonna be warm, so make sure that you're ready for some hot weather as far as clothing goes. Even at nighttime, it's not the coldest in most areas, in the cities and things. Travel tips, what other things do you need to know about? I think something that might be a little tricky is just getting used to like the bus system, just knowing where you want to go. I don't think there was ever an actual map of where the buses went. There might have been, but I don't remember ever getting one. So you might want to look into that before you start taking buses to who knows where you're going, and then getting off and saying, I think we are now twice as far from our final destination as when we started. So that's maybe something you want to ask people about when you get on the bus. Hey, where's this bus going? Oh, I don't want to go there. Get off now. That's all I think I have.
I was kind of lucky. I got to visit darn near everywhere in Guayaquil. It's not actually a huge tourist attraction. If you read tourist guides about Ecuador, they generally tell you to not go to Guayaquil. It's more of a industrious city than anything. The tourist centers are in other parts of the country, but there are some cool things. While you're there, you definitely have to go to La Parque de las Iguanas, the iguana park. And that's just what it sounds like. It's a park in the middle of the city, kind of a central square, and there's a cathedral right there. And it's filled with iguanas. There's lots and lots of iguanas, and pigeons. There's also pigeons, but they're not as cool. So the iguanas just kind of have free range around the park, and you just sit there and watch them. What you should do, though, this is what I did. You go and you buy some fruit from one of the vendors. And I recommend banana. Their favorite is banana. They eat up bananas like nobody's business. They'll just start following you around if you have a banana in your hand. What you can do, though, is you go sit on a bench somewhere and open up your banana and break off bits of it and just kind of put it like on your shoulders or your knees or your head. And the iguanas will come up and they'll climb up on your bench and they'll climb up onto you and eat the banana from off of you. And it's kind of a cool experience. Like, it doesn't hurt, like they kind of scratch a little bit, but it's just really cool. And everybody will start taking videos of you and like pictures and photos and stuff, and they'll all clap when you're done. So if you like attention, it's good too. And hey, you're a missionary, so maybe you could turn that to your advantage. I don't know. Actually, I had some tourists think they thought I was like a park ranger. So I got to explain to them that no, I'm not a park ranger. I'm actually a missionary. So that's a very fun thing to do. One elder, I saw a photo of one of my zone leaders. He had a piece of banana on his tongue, and the iguana was about to eat it. I didn't do that, and you could do it if you want to, I guess, but that's pretty gutsy. So, but the iguanas are very friendly, just like the people. So you have that. There's also a lighthouse that's fun to go visit, and several museums. So transportation in Guayaquil. I didn't like it very much. For a lot of my mission, actually, I was lucky enough to use taxis, and that's the way to get around is taxi drivers. Some of the taxi drivers are absolutely crazy, and you hear this about pretty much everywhere outside of America, but there was a few times I was scared for my life, but most of the time it's pretty chill. It seems like the morning rush hour starts right when starts pretty early and gets over just in time for the lunch rush hour, which gets over just in time for the evening rush hour. So it feels like it's always rush hour, and that can be frustrating. But mostly what you do is you go around on buses, just regular city transportation buses. And most of the buses are just fine. They're big and they have space. But usually the buses are very, very crowded, and there are a lot of buses that are also very, very tiny. I always used to say that if I die and I don't go to heaven, I will be stuck on bus number 12 for the rest of my life. That was a terrible bus for me because I'm very tall and the bus is not very tall. The best I could do was about like this. And usually that bus was just incredibly jam-packed all the time, and it played music that was very strange for me, and it was just terribly, terribly hot. And you're just careening down those streets back and forth through traffic, and knocking into people. It was not a fun experience. And I had the wonderful opportunity to take that bus almost every day for about 9 months. So that was an adventure. They also have something called the Metro, which is basically just a bigger, better two buses connected together, and it has like its own special lane usually, so it can get around the town faster. And you go to the stations where they come by, and they come by every minute or so, and they're also very, very jam packed, and always, essentially. And so that's always kind of a fun way to get around as well, if you like being crowded into them. These sound like kind of like not so fun things, but for some reason it's awesome at the same time, just getting to experience it and live a different lifestyle. So that's how you get around in Guayaquil. Housing, there's as missionaries, we live in pretty much the same houses as everybody else. A long time ago in Ecuador, they used to all live in kind of wood houses, like bamboo houses essentially. But in the last 20 years, they've really developed a lot, and now they've upgraded to concrete houses mostly. And usually as missionaries, we live in concrete houses, and they can vary on how nice they are. Back in 2013, when the mission split, we got a new mission president. Before then, the houses were all very bad. There was one elder, I remember he, when he left after his mission, he finished his mission and left. And the new elder went to that house and calls the mission president up and says, "President, we don't have a roof." There was a big hole in the roof that the landlord had made, and they had tried to get him to fix it, but he couldn't. Wouldn't or something, and so there was just a big section where there was no roof. And the missionaries hadn't said anything to the president, which kind of talks about how bad the houses were back then. But luckily, the new mission president came and said that was no good. We need the spirit in the houses, and so the houses mostly got all switched, and they all got new furniture and new mattresses and things. So right now is a great time to serve because the housing has been upgraded. But you'll still have some housing adventures. I had one house, and it was called La Cueva de Castigo, which means the cave of punishment. And it didn't have any windows, and it was dark and dank in there, and it had been cleaned, maybe. And when I got there was just thousands of cockroaches, and I killed thousands and thousands of those things with a can of Raid. I'm surprised we didn't like start growing third arms because of all the Raid fumes. But that was one of the old houses. The newer houses, they're all pretty decent. So you usually have an electric stove to cook with, and you've got a microwave, which I think is the coolest thing ever because we didn't have those before. Unfortunately, though, you'll serve your entire mission with cold water showers, and I'd like to say you get used to it, but you never really do. The best you can do is when you come home very sweaty one day, and it feels nice to rinse it all off with cold water. That's as good as it gets. But showering in the morning, I never enjoyed that very much. It's kind of funny, actually. You spend like more time getting psyched up to go into the shower than you actually do in the shower itself. So that's always a fun experience. But the members in their houses, they have some very humble circumstances. A lot of their houses are constructed with cinder blocks, and they're just kind of misshapenly put together. They'll have a concrete floor, maybe. Like a lot of them have concrete floors, but there's no like tile or anything, and it's not necessarily finished. A lot of them have dirt floors. You'll see a lot of variation, but a lot of poor circumstances. But the members are just the nicest people ever. On the coast, they're even better. Like, the people there are just amazing. A lot of the members, you could essentially just walk into their house, and they'll be like, "Elders, do you want some food?" And yes, we do. And so it's wonderful. And any person at all, you can just ask them to fill up your water bottle. Just like knock on the door, "Hey, could we like have some water?" And they'll be like, "Yeah." And then you ask them, "Hey, want to hear about Jesus?" And they're like, "No, not really." But they're just really easy to make friends with. I was absolutely amazed at how quickly you can just talk about very intimate things with people. They're just a very open, very loving, very friendly people. And that's the trick. This is what I was going to say earlier. That's the trick, is with the people in Ecuador, you need to become their friend before you become their preacher, their missionary. if you go up to the people and you start off a conversation by, hey, we're missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This isn't particular to Ecuador. I think anywhere in the world, they'll just automatically shut down. I don't want to talk to you. And if you put yourself in their shoes, it makes sense, right? Like if you were approached by another missionary from another religion and they started off that way, trying to talk to you like that, I don't think I would be very receptive either, because you just kind of automatically start putting up walls. But if you just start talking to them about other things and you become their friends, it's a whole lot easier to preach to them because they trust you more and they know that you're there to help them out and you're not just a fanatic missionary. So that's the way to really go about meeting people there, is just becoming their friends, which thankfully is very easy and very rewarding. It just feels so nice to be able to communicate with people so freely down there. It's really a special place.
When I first got to Ecuador, we would always use taxis, and my companion would always talk to them and kind of argue with them. And I was like, why is she arguing? Like, why don't we just get in the taxi and go? Like, but down there you can bargain the price with people and you say, no, hermano, like, come on, give us a discount or whatever. Like, you would have to basically bargain down the price with them. So they would always say their highest price that they would want. And so if you're going kind of far in a big city, they might ask $3, but you can say, oh, like, can I make it $2? We only have $2. Like, oh, that's all I have. And so you kind of talk in this little voice, and and they would bargain down the price. And so that was something that I had to learn, is that you can kind of negotiate down there, not like with bus systems or when you're going to the store, but but if you do buy anything from like a little street vendor, then you can kind of negotiate the price with them. So that was something that was hard at first, but you kind of have to just try it out. And if they see a white person, they're going to say, oh, well, we'll charge $1 more because they have a lot of money because they're from the United States and you don't, you're a missionary. So you'd have to learn how to kind of negotiate down the price and be firm and say, no, like I won't pay more than $2.50, or I won't pay more than whatever. And so that's something very important to utilize down there. In some areas, they would have like an outdoor market kind of thing. They usually had like a grocery store that we would go and shop at. I think there were more expensive, but I mean, we couldn't really eat a lot of fruits and vegetables anyway. I mean, we could eat the fruit, but we couldn't eat raw vegetables, so we didn't really buy a lot because we didn't make our own lunches or dinners or anything. And down there, you don't really even eat dinner. You just eat lunch at 1 p.m. and it's big and you're going to be full for the whole day. So yeah, we would usually shop at little grocery stores that had down there. So it's cool because in Ecuador, everyone pretty much has a store in their house. I mean, every corner there's a store. So if you ever need anything, you just send your kid and they run to the store. It was really interesting because they always have pharmacies pretty much every other street, or every few streets, and kids can just go buy medicine for their parents. They just ask the kids, who's this for? Why are you buying cough syrup or whatever? And they're like, oh, it's for my mom, she's sick. And so, okay, they'll just give the kids the money. And so in some ways that definitely makes the kids more responsible, because I feel like they've been doing things like that from a very young age, like 6 years old. So it's really nice. A lot of people don't have cars. They have a lot of taxis, buses. They have little things called moto taxis, and it's like a motorcycle with like a little carriage on the back or whatever. Those were really fun to ride in. And their houses are pretty much all made of cement. They will just mix the cement in the street and build a house whenever they want. And they also use like cane. I don't really know what that would be. I don't think it's sugar cane, but they would have like these cane shacks. And so they could have like a breeze go through their house, but they would have like 2 stories of this cane house. I don't really know how to explain it very well, but they did live in very poor conditions. Not everyone. There were some people who had nice houses and had tile floors, and pretty much every house has tile. If not, then it's just cement or dirt. And so that was one thing I missed a lot, was carpet. They'll have rugs, but not everyone. Their furniture isn't very comfortable. I mean, it's like wood frame with one little cushion, kind of, and they would just replace that. So that was something that was hard for me too, is that, I mean, just thinking about them not being able to just lay on the couch and watch TV, like, it's not very comfortable. So, yeah, it was the streets. If you're in like the more downtown part of the city, then they're paved. But I served in a couple of areas where it was just dirt roads, and it was fine. That's where you lived, and no one really has addresses. So when someone tells you where they live, they're like, oh, we live right next to this store, and then you go 2 houses down and you'll see a white house with a little dog barking. And you have to get the most specific directions you can, because if they tell you that they live at some certain address, you better be sure you're writing down the color of the house, the dog that's standing outside it, what color the fence is, if there's a doorbell or not. Like, you have to be way more specific than you ever would think you should be. Like, if you think you know where they live, you don't, because you need more information. And if they don't want you to go to their house, they will tell you the wrong place. That's definitely happened before.